has somehow become a bad word. So the debate rages on and we continue.
Just like that it's over, we tend to our war, we count on dead. Black and white soldiers wondering like if this really means freedom. Not yet.
I got 1 job, 2 job, 3 when I need them. I got 5 roommates in this one studio, but I never really see them. And we all came America trying to get a lap dance from Lady Freedom. But now Lady Liberty is acting like Hillary Banks with a prenup. Man, I was brave, sailing on graves. Don't think I didn't notice those tombstones disguised as waves. I'm no dummy, here's something funny. You could be an immigrant without risking your lives, or crossing these borders with thrifty supplies. All you gotta do is see the world with new eyes.
Immigrants, we get the job done.
Look how far I come. Look how far I come. Look how far I come.
We get the job done.
Look how far I come. Look how far I come. Look how far I come.
Immigrants, we get the job done.
It's a hard line when you're an import, baby boy, it's hard times when you ain't sent for races. Feed the belly of the beast with they pitchforks. Rich chores done by the people that get ignored. Ya se armó, ya se despertaron. It's a whole awakening. La alarma ya sonó hace rato. Los que quieren buscan, pero nos apodan como vagos. We're the same ones hustling on every level. Ten los datos. Walk a mile in our shoes. Abróchense los zapatos. I've been scoping y'all dudes. Y'all ain't been working like I do. Why y'all work ya? It hurts ya. You claim I'm stealing jobs. Oh, Peter Piper claimed he picked them. He just underpaid Pablo. But there ain't a paper trail when you living in the shadows. We America's ghost riders. The credit's only borrowed. It's a matter of time before the checks all come. But
immigrants, we get the job done.
Look how far I come. Look how far I come. Look how far I come.
We get the job done.
Look how far I come. Look how far I come. Look how far I come.
Immigrants, we get the job.
Yet.
It's America's ghost riders. The credit's only borrowed. It's America's ghost riders. America's ghost riders. America's ghost riders. The credit's only borrowed. America's ghost riders. The credit's only borrowed. It's America's ghost riders. The credit's only borrowed. It's America's ghost riders. The credit's only borrowed. It's
immigrants, we get the job done.
Immigrants, we don't like that. Nah, they don't play. British Empire strikes back. They're beating us like 808s and hi-hats at our own game of invasion. This ain't Iraq. Who these Fugees? What do they do for me but contribute new dreams, taxes and tool swagger and brutally? Who they flee war zones, but the problem ain't ours. Even if our bombs landed on them like the Mayflower. Buckingham Palace, a Capitol Hill. Blood of my ancestors had that all built. With an ink you print on your dollar bill. Oil you spilled. Thin red line on the flag you hoist when you kill. But still we just say, look how far I come. Hindustan, Pakistan to London. To a galaxy far from their ignorance. Cause
immigrants, we get the job done.
Por tierra o por agua, identidad falsa. Brincamos muros o flotamos en balsa. La peleamos como Sandino en Nicaragua. Somos como las plantas que crecen sin agua, sin pasaporte americano, porque la mitad de Gringolandia es terreno mexicano. Hay que ser bien hijo de puta. Nosotros les sembramos el árbol y ellos se comen la fruta. Somos los que cruzaron. Aquí vinimos a buscar el oro que nos robaron. Tenemos más trucos que la policía secreta. Metimos la casa completa en una maleta. Con un pico, una pala y un rastrillo te construimos un castillo. ¿Cómo es que dice el coro, cabrón?
Immigrants, we get the job done.
Look how far I come. Look how far I come. Look how far I come.
We get the job done.
Look how far I come. Look how far I come. Look how far I come.
Immigrants, we get the job done.
Look how far I come. Look how far I come. Look how far I come.
Immigrants, we get the job done.
Not yet. And just like that it's it's over, we tend to our wounded, we count our dead.
Black and white soldiers wonder alike if this really means freedom.
Not yet.
Isaiah chapter 58 and verse 1. Cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgressions, and the house of Jacob their sins.
Copyright disclaimer. This content does not belong to Bible Chronicles or claim this intellectual property. The content provided today has and always will belong to the content owner. Bible Chronicles does not have any affiliation with the owner of this property. As mentioned, Bible Chronicles did not intend to make use of any material for the purpose of harvesting gain. However, Title 17 of United States copyright law states material in use can only be done when it's for theological or general educational purposes, and thus Bible Chronicles believes that this principal material falls under fair use, which honors protection under Section 107 of the same U.S. copyright law.
Quiero pensar, pero no puedo, no. El ruido en la ciudad está consumiendo, Quieren pensar, sin ni siquiera estar al mando. Tanta publicidad subliminal te está matando. Les cuesta decidir por sí mismos cuál es su mando. Publican sonrisas con el corazón llorando. Quieren brillar, pero sin tener que valerse de tener sus ideas propias. Los veo a todos igual, solo son la réplica de la imitación de una triste copia. Obedece, la vida es un suspiro y envejeces. Te dejas distraer por estupideces y pierdes el eje. Te duele por dentro, entonces te creces, pero aceptas mucho menos de lo que mereces.
¿Y quién te ha dicho a ti que no puedes pensar sobre lo que le di, sobre cómo actuar? Lucha por ser feliz sin a nadie dañar, y solo así podrás brillar. ¿Y quién te ha dicho a ti que no puedes pensar sobre lo que le di, sobre cómo actuar? Lucha por ser feliz sin a nadie dañar, y solo así podrás brillar. Conserva tu juicio y tu intuición, más activos que el que lucha por lo suyo y no se rinde. Yo ya sé bien cuál es mi misión, y es contarte que el mal por su propio pie pronto se extingue. Ven, no caigas bajo su control, pues por la televisión es normal que mal lo pinte. Tú mantente firme en conexión con la fuente de creación, vivirás siempre de fin de. Dios abre los ojos, dime lo que ves. A tus propios hijos matándose por billetes. Niños por cada 2 por 3. Pa' unos es bendición, con otros por su causa pequen. Y yo que intento ser un ser crístico, voy bendiciendo hasta los diablos. Piensan que es cierto el mensaje típico. Dicen que invento lo del engaño, y mientras lucho contra mis errores, demonios escucho, me ofrecen soluciones. Pero sé que hay un ángel que quiere que mejore. Me dice haz un trabajo interno antes de que lo ignores, antes que otra vez llores y se llenen los mares de pena y de dolores, ya que en mi mente no caben. La paz no va en un sobre, somos algo importante. Nunca te revelaste y por eso no lo sabes. le di sobre cómo actuar. Lucha por ser feliz sin a nadie dañar y solo así podrás brillar. ¿Y quién te ha dicho a ti que no puedes pensar sobre lo que le di sobre cómo actuar? Lucha por ser feliz sin a nadie dañar y solo así podrás brillar.
Me desperté tan cansado, me sentía mal herido de todo lo que he pasado. No me quita lo aprendido, por dentro me he perdonado, pero casi no me olvido. Me desperté tan cansado, me sentía mal herido de todo lo que he pasado. No me quita lo aprendido, por dentro me he perdonado, pero casi no me olvido, no. Todos repiten lo que dice el referente. Discursos vacíos lejos de ser coherentes. De lo que no sabes será mejor que no inventes. Que investigues y no te dejes lavar la mente.
¿Y quién te ha dicho a ti que no puedes pensar sobre lo que le di sobre cómo actuar? Lucha por ser feliz sin a nadie dañar y solo así podrás brillar. ¿Y quién te ha dicho a ti que no puedes pensar sobre lo que le di sobre cómo actuar? Lucha por ser feliz sin a nadie dañar y solo así podrás brillar.
Quiero pensar, pero no puedo, no. El ruido en la ciudad está consumiendo,
Hey, shalom, fam. All right, man. I love that intro, family. Hold up a second. Let me see if I could get this going. See if it's on yet. It's not. Oh, there it goes. Shalom, fam. Shalom. Told y'all that this time I would actually put up the camera. Hopefully, you guys still remember that I am human, that I'm a live individual. You know what I mean? I'm not a computer. Nor am I an agent, which is what some people call me. Apparently, they don't believe that us so-called beaners, spicks, and wetbags can have even a decency of one small brain. So for them, it seems kind of impressive that I even know how to read, I guess. So their only option would be to say I am on the other side of your team. So anyhow, listen, fam. Here, let me put this on real quick, and then I'll go back to the camera regular. All right, so I'm gonna do something different today, and more likely, I'm going to continue doing classes that way. All right, as you know, you can tell by me, maybe if you've been watching this channel for some time, because it's our channel, not just mine. I always try to improve. I know, and everything I can, I try to better myself, whether it's work, class, whatever it is, even myself, obviously in the spiritual walk. So what I'm doing today is I'm going to do a PowerPoint presentation, because I think it's going to allow you to see what I see, because I'm already doing the time of taking notes and all that stuff, right? So, and I've never done PowerPoint, so I seen my wife do it, and then I just said, you know what, let me try it out. And I realized that because of so much of this practice that I have, and I was already doing Word, PowerPoint is actually faster for me. It allows me to put my classes together in a quicker manner. So today I'm going to do one like this, and hopefully, you know, based on my responses from you guys, if you think that, you know what, I like that, it's clean, it makes more sense, please let me know. I would love that if you guys share that, because then again, I'm only available. I'm only able to grow if I'm also able to show. And I'm only able to show if I'm also able to apply. You get what I'm saying? So if I'm talking about order, discipline, bettering yourself and all that, and you don't see our channel grow, my teachings improve, or my presentations develop, then obviously there's something going on. So as you know, in this walk, there's either progression or regression. There's no in the middle. There's no such thing as being idle. If you're idle, that means you're falling. It's that simple. And in this walk is the same. So with that being said, as you guys know, the title, I mean, I technically had an awkward title. I couldn't really name it because obviously it's more than just what I'm showing. So, you know, obviously you guys see this thumbnail. It says Swarthy Pete. Have you guys probably heard of it? Now, I heard of Swarthy Pete in 2019 through the camp I used to go to. But the way that I learned about him was not what I learned about him now. You know, it's nice when you paint the picture and you assume. And again, the biggest lie that the enemy could have caused was to create a history that reflects the Bible, which then can be used as a prophetic book, when in reality, they planned this along. And I'm going to show you how, fam. And it's not like they twisted the Bible. No. The history aligning itself. That's why the Most High said through his son, listen, sorry, my bad. In Revelation, I think it was John? Revelation? I can't remember. It says that all of those things will be revealed, right? So anyhow, it's called St. Nicholas and Swarthy Pete. Now, our understanding of this, at least for me, before I found out, I had a great conversation with a sister. Hey, shalom, Elisheva. Matter of fact, she's here. Oh, shalom, Rick, and whoever else, okay? So I appreciate what she shared with me. We were just, you know, we share information. And I know about Swarthy Pete, but what I know of him was not what she shared with me. So my understanding of Swarthy Pete was, you know, he came in St. Nicholas, and that Swarthy Pete was his actual slave, like black slave, right? And he would go around and kidnap kids and beat them up and stuff like that. So in this camp, obviously they would say, oh, you see the white man, and he made a slave, and he's kidnapped, make the black man look bad, blah, blah, blah. So obviously the connotation to this topic, oh, it's racist. It's racist. That's what they say. Now, as you guys know me, I don't give a rat's ass who you are. You're going to get it once I know that whatever your history is and it's attached to us, guess what? I'm going to put it in your face, because then there's no way to answer facts with what's it called? Alternative facts. You can create them, but what we see is what we see. And what we keep seeing seems to be true. So again, that old saying, you know, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck and it floats and swims like a duck and probably smells like one, then it probably is a duck. You're going to find out today several things, okay? So let's begin, all right? And I hope you guys now, when I'm getting into this PowerPoint, I'm going to use most of it, and then I'm going to use some links. I'm going to fly back and forth, but again, it's going to be most of it. So I'm going to get off camera right now, all right? I'm going to leave this on open, and let's begin, all right? So now, what I did was, as you can see, hopefully you guys can appreciate this, all right? So technically, we're going to look into what's called the Dutch organ. Now, you know me, family. You know me. Hold on. Let me at least do this in the meantime, because I think you guys can read. You know that what I'm trying to do is clean up my act, because I do want to show, and I go fast, and I look for books, and it takes so much time. I want it to be clean. So what I like to do is give you history before we just go and, you know, piss on the thing. Let's batter it up a bit. So let's find out about this Dutch origin. Who are these people? All right. So now we're going to click on Wikipedia. It's not 100% me, like I support this, no, but for the most part, it's a general theology. All right. You can see that here, the general theology, but it's general theology. Let's see. Let me open this up. Now here it goes right here. All right. So now there was such a thing as Black Dutch. Hold on. Let me see if I can magnify this. Yeah, there was such a thing as Black Dutch. Okay. So as you guys can read, matter of fact, here, let me do this. I'll magnify it even more. I'll be the little guy. So I'll read just a little bit so we can understand, all right? So follow me. It says, Black Dutch is a term with several different meanings in the United States dialect and slang. It generally refers to racial, ethnic, or cultural roots. Its meaning varies and such difference as contingent upon the time and place. Several varied groups of multiracial people have sometimes been referred to as or identified as Black Dutch. most often as reference to their ancestors. Okay? Now it says the term Black Dutch appears to have become widely adopted in the Southern Highlands and as far as West Texas in early 1800s by certain Southeastern families of mixed race ancestry, especially those of Native American descent. Okay? Just keep reading with me. When used in the South, it usually did not imply African admixture, although some families who used the term were of triracial descent. So they say. Okay? Now, in addition, some mixed race persons of European and African descent identify as Portuguese and Native Americans. You guys can continue reading this here. Pretty simple. Take a snapshot of it if you want. But I'm going to continue down a little bit. Now it says here, the term Dutch for people of German descent are also acquired at wider meaning. In those days, Dutch or Deutsch were the words of the Germanic language spoken in what we know now as Netherlands and Germany. Germans with Swarthy, that word's going to come up again, or darker complexion were called Black Dutch. So now, hey, Shalom, Esmeralda. So now, if we have a understanding of Black Dutch or dark complexion of a Dutch person, now we're wondering, wait a minute, we never knew in American academic that there was such a thing as Black Dutch. I mean, for God's sakes, all I knew about Dutch and Netherlands was I'm sorry, no offense to you people, but you guys are super, super white. So to me, this was very surprising, right? And I know for the most part, and Alicia, I do want to share, this, that I didn't know about dark people of Dutch origin, but I didn't know the Swarthy story. So I'm so happy that you brought that to my attention. I appreciate that. I'll praise the Most High for that one. All right, so hold on a second. Here you go. Yeah, there you go for that one, man. That's for that. So now it says here, the term was adopted by some people as an attempt to disguise Indian or infrequently triracial descent. So remember this. Let me read it again so you can clearly understand. There are strong indications that the original Black Dutch were swarthy complexioned Germans. Then it says, Anglo-American loosely applied the term to any dark complexion American of European descent. Hold on a second.
Bruh. Wait a minute.
Right? European dark complexion descent. Okay, let's continue. The term was adopted by some people as an attempt to disguise Indian and infrequently triracial descent. So they would use the Indian blood, right? Or if they were mixed with Indian, it would go back to the European descent, Black Dutch, because you'll find out what it was to be an Indian, what really happened to you to you sisters, more than anything. Then it says, by mid-19th century, the term had become an American colloquialism. I cannot pronounce it yet. I will eventually by the end of the class. A derogative term for anything denoting one's small stature, dark coloring, working class status, political sentiment, or anyone of foreign extract. In contrast to the Anglo surname Melungians. Now, I've heard I don't know how do you say it, but I've heard of these guys. And there's a real deep, weird history about them. I don't have time to do a class on them, but I was intrigued about what I found. But anyhow, let's continue. Nearly 60% of American families reporting Black Dutch tradition. Watch this. Nearly 60% of American families reporting Black Dutch tradition bear surnames that are either decidedly German or possibly Americanized from Germanic origin. So you guys can see here, Native American passing for white. There's a somehow a different Dutch element that we weren't aware of. Okay? A different Dutch element. So let's continue. Now that we are at least getting an idea that Dutch wasn't always so-called white folks. You know what I'm saying? That's what I thought. Let me see if I can continue. Now, here's what I want you guys to do. If you ever have a chance, there's an app called Webster's Dictionary 1828. I've had it for years. Now, it was brought to my attention again because a brother pointed out a word in there, and I was like, oh, man, that's great. I had that app, but I was looking at that app for other reasons. One day, I looked up the word Swarthy. So then, all of a sudden, I found this, okay? And I had showed this in one of my other classes, but it wasn't connecting just yet because, again, we weren't here. We weren't connected with the info just yet. So now, the definition of Swarthy in that time In 1828, I want you to pay attention. It says, being of a dark hue or dusky complexion, tawny. In warm climates, the complexion of men is universally swarthy or black. Then it says, the Moors, Spaniards, and Italians are more swarthy than the French, Germans, and English. So it says that more Spaniards and Italians are super darker than the French, Germans, and English. Their swarthy hosts would darken all airplanes. Now, you guys can look up American Dictionary of English Language, Webster's 1825. All right? Proof. I'm using legitimate sources, family. Let's continue. Now, Swarthy Pete, this guy and St. Nicholas. All right? So what I'm going to do here, let me get out of this. Let me see if I could, hold on. I'm going to open it up again. My bad. I shouldn't have done that. I'm new to the presentation. My bad. Let me go here, and I'm going to open up this page. So I want to read about first, let's see, copy. Let's continue. All right. So now let's continue in this here. So we're here in Swarthy Pete and St. Nicholas, okay? Now, on the bottom, I put Spain, Dutch, and Aruba knows about the origins of this tale. And that's why I'm glad you're here, Elishaba, because Elishaba is from Aruba. And once I share this, she's going to confirm as we keep moving forward, hopefully, if you have time, sis, that this story actually was part of Spain. I mean, part of Aruba. And it was a very awkward thing to say to us without knowing why it was said to us. It was really weird. I'm sure, Elishaba, you probably were like, why? When you were growing up, why? Why are they telling me this? Like, why would it be fearful? Now we know why. Now we can connect the dots. Because it's, listen, family, and I said this particular celebration that they have, now some people take it racist because obviously they have a different understanding of it. But you're going to find out that Swarthy Pete was never in reality an African at all. He was interpreting somebody of African descent. Some people that will be known as Moors. And as we look further, we're going to find out why. And there's a lot of connection to Dutch and Swarthy Pete and all of this thing and King James and all of this stuff. And I'm telling you, I'm really happy because I just love the connections. I love what the Most High does for you. And he opens the book and says, here you go. Bam. What has been closed is opening finally to the Hebrews of the Bible. The real ones, at least, Lord willing. So let's continue. It says here, let's read some facts. All right. Crazy facts about this Sinterklaas Day, the insane Dutch Christmas. Okay. So people understand this as being a celebration in December 5th. And, like I shared with you guys before, so, Santa Claus or Santa Claus comes and blah, 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 and all this and that. Right. So there's a lot of ideas of this theory of this celebration. One of them is Sinterklaas, the castrated rooster. I'm not going to get into it, but he's like, they're celebrating Santa Claus, but he's not Santa Claus. He's just dressed just like Santa Claus. He's just skinny. The other one is Black Pete, Santa Claus, African slave. That's what I was taught, because prior to being in there, I never knew what anything about this guy, let alone the history. Santa Claus' original assistant was Satan. That's another one, right? So that's what I guess they're coming up with, just to find an excuse to not admit what they really want to say. Because as you know, this particular type of people, this nation, right? The ones that don't really get a lot of sun, they're not very sincere about things. And they almost like they feel guilty to admit that those people are part of it, because then it makes them look bad, like they were enslaved too. And I don't think they ever want to be in that position ever again, fam. That's why it's going to end, because they'll do everything not to be at that position ever again. I'm going to tell you that right now. Now, here's another one. Santa Claus, watch this. This is the one. No, actually, no, I lie. Santa Claus lives in Spain. Supposedly, that's where the boat was coming from. That's the story, right? Now, you can believe it. Yeah, whatever. Parents leave Black Pete's bottle of beer. That's another one. But this one's the one that I wanted to read to you guys. Black Pete beats children up in a burlap sack. Now, sis, I remember when we had that chat, and I don't really go about dreams, but one of the weirdest things was I had dreams about me being kidnapped in these things here several times. And then the dreams were where people were walking over me and I could see them on top of me, but I couldn't do anything. I could just see them. Like I'm looking up underneath and I could see them, like their feet, their souls walking over me. But they were paying no attention to me. Now, I remember in these dreams that I was kidnapped as a kid. Well, we were playing hide and go seek in these dreams. So now, let me read this to you guys. This is very interesting, fam. You see, we never knew this. And now I know why they celebrate this. Here's the point. It says, not every child gets presents on Santa Claus Day. If children have been bad, parents will leave the kids little notes for Santa Claus warning them that they need to clean up their act. Or else, come December 5th, if that child doesn't start acting right, he'll get something a lot worse than a lump of coal. Damn. When climbing into kids' homes, the Black Pete's. Now, Alicia, I think you remember you said something about the vision. I don't know. It was weird, right? This reminded me of what you said. The Black Pete's, burlap sacks, and brooms handle. So let me tell you, when climbing into kids' homes, the Black Pete's, many of these little things, right? Many of these little minions bring up burlap sacks and broom handles. Their job, meaning it's more than one, is to track down any misbehaving children, throw them in the sack, beat them with the broom handle, and then drag them off to Spain, man. Now that's right there. Now listen, fam. I know it might not seem like a big deal to you, but why in the world would they say drag them off to Spain? What happens there? No one knows for sure, but the children never return. Of course, parents never actually have their children beaten and shipped to Spain, but they can still leave kids with bad presents. If a child misbehaves, the parent can leave the room, blah, 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 blah. Now, look, in Aruba, that's exactly what our sister grew up with. Technically, es Sira. En Navidad, si no te portas bien, va a venir Swarthy Pete y te va a llevar, te va a robar y llevarte a España. Now, when you look up this tradition, it is only practiced in Dutch, Netherlands, I think some areas, and in Aruba. Well, guess why it's in Aruba? Would you like to share with them why it's in Aruba, Elishama? What does Dutch have to do with Aruba? If you can maybe add a little bit of that. You would think, like, why is Aruba there? You know, why? How does it do Aruba deal with Dutch Aruba with Aruba? Very simple, fam. Because that's technically their so-called manifest destiny designation. There you go. Yes, we are colonized by the Dutch. That's exactly why. So now, when the Dutch, remember, keep in mind that the name Swarthy, okay? So if the Dutch are afraid, so if these people are afraid of the Spaniards or their kids going back to Spain, these are white people. And we read that Spain or Spaniards were dark skinned. So who were these guys? You see, the tale is, family, is that when we continue with these classes, and you're going to find out, the tale is that this is part of a tradition. So let's listen in. Look, you'll see. Let's go.
Every year, during the first week of December, the Dutch celebrate their own unique version of Christmas, who many know as Santa Claus, the Dutch call Sinterklaas. Where Santa comes from the North Pole on a flying sled, his Dutch counterpart arrives from Spain in a steamboat. And instead of having a squad of elven helpers or reindeer commonly associated with Santa, Sinterklaas receives his help from Swarthy Pete. Unsurprisingly, Swarthy Pete, or the English translation alternative, Black Pete, is a pretty controversial figure to those unfamiliar with Dutch traditions.
Why are you blacked up? It just looks like racism.
Does it?
Yeah.
I think it's a colonial hangover. We're scared of your tradition.
Yeah. I'm speechless at this point.
It's offensive to us, with our culture being the way it is.
I can't really get past that they are painted black.
I know I'm not visiting Holland.
Yeah. This has got to be made.
But you ask the Dutch about Black Pete and you get very different answers.
Niet alles op discriminatie gooien en zo, want er zijn ook goede, leuke dingen.
Het is gewoon prachtig voor de kinderen. Dat hoort erbij.
So, where did this controversial Christmas character come from? Well, the story of Black Pete begins in 1850 when he first appeared in the Dutch book St. Nicholas and His Servant as a sort of Sinterklaas manservant sidekick. Somewhat like how Santa uses coal, Sinterklaas had Black Pete. But in this case, if a kid was naughty, he'd stuff you in a sack, hit you with a switch, and then ship you off to Spain. Seriously. But over the years, Pete's role changed from being the guy in charge of discipline to being the guy in charge of entertainment. Possibly because the idea of having a blackface helper stuff kids in a sack wasn't exactly family-friendly. This led to the more politically correct explanation that Black Pete's face was not naturally black, but instead dirty from chimney soot, since he was going up and down chimneys to deliver presents. But more than 150 years later, a growing number of Dutch citizens appear to have had enough and have begun picketing Sinterklaas festivals. A United Nations panel challenged the Dutch government to reconsider the custom in 2013. But this year, a lower court decision that would have allowed festivals, including Black Pete, be put up for review for negative stereotypes was overturned by the Netherlands' highest court. Theories for why the Dutch don't want to give up on the tradition of Black Pete range from cognitive dissonance, where the brain filters out information it'd rather not know, to ignorance on how big of a role the Netherlands played in the 17th and 18th century slave trade. The most prominent supporters of Black Pete are members of the far-right anti-immigrant Dutch Party for Freedom, who this November proposed a law that would protect Black Pete's identity, while of course dressed up as Black Pete. But changes are slowly being made to the Sinterklaas helper nonetheless. A white Pete appeared in this year's annual Sinterklaas Journal, and some Petes are using ash on their faces to more accurately represent chimney soot. But for now, it seems those for and against the Dutch tradition of donning blackface to represent Zwarte Piet will continue butting heads for years to come. For Newsy, I'm Elizabeth Hagedorn. Multiple sources, a broader view.
So as you can see, family, this is such a offensive thing for them, okay? And I like what they said at the end because they're confirming what I shared with you. It says seriously that if you're a bad kid, they'll take you back to Spain, okay? So obviously that's why, and again, there are, and we know this now here in America, they tend to protect the, they don't want to admit that the white man was enslaved. Unfortunately, that's the facts. The white man was enslaved by the black man, and they don't want to admit it. So in everything that you relate to history that could have been that way, that's why they just say, well, we need it, because it's a reminder to them that that was happening to them. Because remember, we know history, and we're going to touch on it. So now, I'm going to share with you. Let's see what this says. Let me see. Protect Black Pete's identity is 100 correct, and I can see the agenda. Because look, this is the word that she said, the cognitive dissonance, right? And this is what's going on with them right now. Yeah, that's right. This is what's going on with you, with this particular tribe. This is what's going on. The field of psychology, cognitive dissonance, is the perception of contrary information and mental toll of it, meaning relevant items of information include a person's clothing, feeling, ideas, belief, values, and things in the environment. So cognitive dissonance means it's typically experienced as psychological stress when persons participate in an action that goes against one or more of those things. According to this theory, when two actions or ideas are not psychologically consistent with each other, people do all in their power to change them until they become consistent. You see what I'm saying? So what does that mean? And you know what, sis? You actually said it. That is the agenda. It is becoming consistent now. They are consistently wanting to deny that they had anything to do with the slavery. And then if they do, they say it in such a way where, oh, it's just African-American pride. What? You mean the Buffalo Soldiers? That's pride? Are you serious? Destroying our brothers and sisters? You're proud of that. Oh, well, at every war, we were with the white man. We built this country. You know what? If you were with him at every war, that means you were with him at every war with him against us. Those are facts. So what I want to do, I want to give you credit. I'm going to give you what credit is due. But you see, what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to have empathy for BS, because I know now the facts. There was a time where I doubted it too. So now let's read about this. What does this word mean? So I'm going to tell you guys, because they also say, oh, no, he was a slave. No. He was not a slave, family. He was this word is a Dutch word, Natch, you saw that in the name of the book, right? That's the name of the book. What's his name? Nicolas Singh Claus or something like that. Anyways, his assistant, Catch or Natch, is called servant. He's a servant. There's a difference between a servant and a slave. A servant and a slave. A slave is a slave. A servant is different. Just like indentured servitude or perpetual slavery. They're different. They're not one and the same. Sinterklaas. There you go. Thank you, sis. So now let's continue. So we get now. Let me pull it up so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Here it goes right there. See right there. You see that? Saint Nicholas and Zing Nicked. Neck. I don't know how you say it, but that's him, right? His servant. Saint Nicholas and servant. Okay? That's what it means. Not slave. And remember, that was a story, but it wasn't a real necessarily story like that. But it was a real story. And we're going to see it right here. Now, before we go further, I want to share this with you guys. Something that was brought to my attention a long time ago, and I just kind of saved it. I looked for it again, and I found it. Benjamin Franklin, in a book called Observation Concerning the Increase of Mankind and all these other parts of it, right? He numbers like 24 topics. And in the 24th topic, he mentions this. In that one, and I'm going to read it to you, okay? So let me magnify it, and I'm going to read it, and watch what it says. Which leads me to add one remark, that the number of purely white people in the world is proportionally very small. All Africa is black or tawny. Asia, chiefly tawny. America, exclusive of the newcomers, wholly so. And in Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, Swedes. Swedes? You mean Swartz? You mean Dutch? Are generally of what we call Swarthy complexion, as are the Germans, which they also do share the language, a bit of a dialect, but not that different. And Saxons only, with the English make the principal body of white people in the face of the earth. So see, the Swedes, complexion, as are the Germans also. Then it says the Saxons only accept it in English, or wait, basically to make the principal people of the earth to be so-called white. I could wish their numbers were increased. I could see that. Why not? I would feel the same way. Well, we are, as I may call it, scoring our planet by clearing America of woods, and so making this side of our globe reflect a brighter light to the eyes of the inhabitants in Mars or Venus. As you can see, that's masonry. Why should we, in the sight of superior beings, masonry again, darken its people? Why increase the sons of Africa, Wabos, if you use this source and then you run from it? You use it and then you run from it, the fact that you are from Africa. Make up your minds. By planting them in America, where we have so fair an opportunity, by excluding all blacks and tawnies, of increasing the lovely white and red. Now, some people say white and red means the white folks. Some people say them and us. But perhaps I'm impartial to the complexion of my country, for such kind partiality is natural to mankind, which basically says, well, yeah, I mean, obviously I'm going to favor my people because it's just common sense that people favor their people. But listen to the statement. These Dutch, this is, remember, Benjamin Franklin. You guys don't forget who this guy is. Okay? So now I'm going to show you this real quick. Let's move on. So now I wanted to bring this up because all of a sudden the Dutch bring up their apology. They're apologizing, which to me it's very it's stupid. But society has created such a big, I should say this, a particular people that we're finding out that loves to go to Walmarts and McDonald's and CVS's and Amazon warehouses and just take shit. Excuse my language. Take stuff. There's an agenda being pushed by them. Trust and believe. So now these guys, listen to very clearly how they're speaking. And the girl on the right, and one woman pauses I'm not going to pause the video. Just pay attention, fam. Pay attention to what they're saying. And I'm going to continue pushing through. Let's go.
Prime Minister Mark Rutte has apologised for the role that the Netherlands had in slavery. Mr Rutte also said that slavery must be recognised in the clearest terms as a crime against humanity. He said slavery caused, as he put it, untold suffering for untold numbers of people, which continued in the lives of people today. Well, our correspondent Anna Holligan joins us from The Hague. And Anna, we saw in the last hour that apology being made, but obviously not without controversy.
Not without controversy indeed, but actually Mark Rutte went much further than many people had expected with this. He said the silence had gone on for too long and acknowledged that until recently, he didn't think there was any need to apologise for this slavery legacy. And what we heard today from him speaking inside the National Archive, surrounded by this history, which he said you can't argue with the facts, he said it was a painful, ugly and downright embarrassing time. This slavery system amounted to a crime against humanity. And he went into some of the numbers as well, which really give you an indication of just how horrific this was. So he talked about between 1814 up until slavery was abolished he said by 1814, more than 600,000 enslaved Africans had been shipped in deplorable conditions, wrenched from their families by Dutch slave traders. He also mentioned in Asia, between 660,000 and over 1 million people were traded by the Dutch East India Company. And all of this, of course, was mandated by the Dutch government, which is why Mark Rutte has taken these steps to apologise today. But you mentioned the controversy. A lot of people in the affected communities, the descendants of the enslaved, had asked for him to apologise on the 1st of July 2023, which will mark the 160th anniversary of the Dutch Emancipation Act.
Yeah, and yet here we are in December, so that's one thing that's upset people. The other question around all of this is reparation. Any kind of mention of that or decisions around that?
Actually, no, and that's something that may come in the days ahead. He did talk about the issue about the day, the chaos and confusion. He has been accused of ignoring those voices with echoes of colonialism. He said actually he wanted to get this done this year, so next year everyone could focus on the commemorations. He also mentioned, interestingly, that the Dutch king, Willem-Alexander, will be present at the commemorations, Ketty Kotti it's called, the release of chains on the 1st of July 2023. And that may be the moment that the king will also apologise. And of course, all of this is happening and may lead to other European countries taking similar steps. It may encourage others to consider their colonial legacies, because these words from Mark Rutte are really quite striking, given the polarisation we see in Dutch society today, and also just the fact that so many people here were still against this apology being issued, almost half of the Dutch population. The other thing that Mark Rutte mentioned that's quite notable is he said the centuries of oppression and exploitation still have an effect today in racist stereotypes, patterns of exclusion and social inequality. And he said to break those patterns, we have to face up to the past openly and honestly. And I think that will be the
Prime Minister Mark Rutte.
Now, family, I wanted you to listen to the whole video. Did you guys notice one thing that was, or people that were never mentioned? I heard slave trade. I heard ships. I heard black people. Oh, I heard Asians too. People in India. But none of you guys. Look, I'm going to be the first one to tell you. You can combine all the losses of the American wars, all the losses of the so-called African Americans, all the losses of those wars, okay? Combined them, and they will never amount to the amount of people that died in the American Holocaust. by the Dutch, the French, the Germans, the Spanish, the Portuguese, and the Brits. And Virginia Dutch Company, the nerve of them to just walk over. I mean, first of all, look, I'm going to give you a message to you so-called white folks if you're watching this channel. I don't think you do. Stop keeping your mouth shut, man. Bring the truth out. It's okay if you were conquered. You see, that's why I love the scriptures, family, and we're going to read some scriptures. I'm just trying to get through this because kingdoms come and kingdoms go. But Israel is an everlasting salvation. Israel is an everlasting salvation. So it doesn't matter whether the status of above, whether we are on the bottom, it's okay. We're in everlasting salvation. Let me let my camera charge real bit. So now, the reason I'm bringing this up also in regards to the Dutch and why it's important to know, because watch this. This whole entire time they're apologizing, sympathy, Africa. Okay, fine. But the Virginia Dutch Company had something to do with the Americas here. So now, the Virginia Dutch Company, who was the CEO of the Virginia Dutch Company? Now, at that time, they didn't call them CEOs. But let's find out who this guy was. All right, you guys are going to be pretty impressed or surprised. Let's read this, okay? This is from a link. It's pretty easy to read. Coats of Arms of the Virginia Company. Let me go ahead and magnify this. And look what he reads. It says, the Virginia Company of London was a joint stock company chartered by King James. Whoa, what? Hold on. Gotcha, bitch. Oh, let me do that again. Gotcha, bitch. King James. Hold on a second. Let me read it again. The Virginia Company of London was a joint stock company chartered by King James I in 1606. Remember, family, who were the Swarthy people? What did Benjamin Franklin say? Yeah, let's get going. Let's keep going. And what are these BHI saying about King James? That he's a Hebrew, right? Because he's black. Okay. All right. So now wait, hold on a second there, Mr. One Westerners. You're telling me King James, who authorized the translation of the Bible, also had a joint stock company for Virginia Company of London, who had a lot to do with slave ships? Let's continue. In 1606, to establish a colony in North America. Such a venture allowed the crown to reap the benefits of colonialization. Swallow that pill, One West. Leverage against the Spanish without bearing cost. Investors, meanwhile, were protected from catastrophic losses in the event of the project failure. The company established a settlement in Jamestown in 1607. Over the next 18 years, the Crown granted the company 2 new charters, democratizing its governance and reforming its financial model. That began as an enterprise of investors seeking dividends, such, he's talking about money, right? But as you can see, let me read this. By 1618, the company had found a way to use its most abundant resource, land, to attempt settlers to pay their own passage from England to the colony, which is what's called headright program. I'm not going to talk about it in this class. I'll bring it up later. I've done it before. After revival, to pay the company a quit rent or fee to use the land. Still the Virginia Company and the colony, it oversaw struggle to survive. You guys can see. Watch this. Disease, mismanagement, Indian attacks, and factionalism in London all took toll until 1623. So we know now that King James had a joint stock company with Virginia Company, right? Okay, let's continue. Now, one thing I want to show you, King James. And I did a class by this before. So I want to make sure that you guys understand who this guy is. See, everybody thinks that this guy is a so-called Hebrew Israelite. Okay? Now, I have a book here, and I bought it by curiosity, so-called Lee Cummings. So Lee Cummings, he's a Fopi writer and all them fools, right? If you read this book, it's just all over the place. But I like that. You know what it says here? Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh, right? You that are wise, understand, discern information. And don't go and say, oh, the majority. Oh, anyways, this guy's well abstract and then he wants to bring the Bible. Very silly, but I don't care about it. So this is so-called King James. All right. As you can see, right? That's the one that they say, look, he's King James. He's black. He's black. It's my people. Okay, cool. Sounds good. I want to point something out before I get to other places. You see this? That's a cross. Okay. I just want to point that out. You see this here? That's a cross. I just want to point that out. Now, you see this here? That's a sphere. And that's not of the Bible. Now, I want to point this out. It says here, James, by the grace of God, King of England, land France, and Ireland. Here's the thing that I'm looking for. There we go.
Bruh.
Watch this.
Who are you?
Gotcha, bitch. We got you. Now, check this out. Red seal of King James VI, which is his son. And he has the seal right there. You see the horse and the person, right? If you have the book, you can actually see it better of the picture. But in this case, the horse is looking to my right, and there's a gentleman riding it with a sword in his hand. Okay? That is the seal of King James' family. This is an image of a black King James VI of Scotland with his 1611 translated book, Bible. Take a close look at the black hand that is flipping the pages of the original, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, he's talking about this right here. Look at the head, look at the black hand. It could be a glove, but who knows? Who cares? All right, whatever. All right, so now watch this. We're going to find out what this is. Let's find out what this is. When I started looking at that stuff, I'm like, I've seen it before. See, there it goes right there. Now, mind you, this guy has crosses on him. And I don't know why that doesn't matter to them. So this particular cross right there, right? Pay attention to, if you can see it, just pay attention to it. While you're looking through it, take a snapshot of it. If you can magnify it, that would be fantastic. Because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring out this particular material, and I showed you guys this before. Now, I'm not sure if anybody understood what I was sharing with y'all, but you have to be mindful of these facts. These crests have everything to do with family lineage, okay? So, for example, you know, like the standard, you know, flag, or like, you know, the tribe of Judah. So people, like sometimes you drive in people's homes and they have their last name in front of their home. It was very common to have these crests, okay? And a lot of these people that they claim to be so-called our people had these crests. But you see, these crests wasn't necessarily what we find. This is what we find. And this is from a book that I showed you guys before. It's called the Royal Book of Crest, Great Britain and Ireland, Dominion of Canada, India, and Australasia. Okay. What is it, sis? Put the screen. Let's see. Romano, put the screen of the picture where the cross of the head shows to make. Yeah, go ahead. Hold on. Let me get it. This one. Look at that cross. This is important material because they tend to miss this. That cross is like literally in their face. Remember, in Judith 5, it says that the Most High don't roll with us if we're not keeping the commandments. All Israel. Not some of us, all of us. After 70 AD, that's it. It's over. You can't, you as a tribe cannot individually, you can't run shop no more, man. We went in slavery together, we go into kingship together. You can't have one or the other. That's just a fact. Okay, so that's all bull. Anyways, so at least you see these crests, you see these lines, you see these horses. Okay, cool. In this book, this is what, hold on. Well, in this book, we find this interesting thing. So you see this here, right? The same crest that he has. So now watch this. In the same book that I showed you, we have this. They look alike, don't they? They look alike to me, right? They look alive to me. Now, why am I showing you this particular crest? Because there's a point behind it. So this is, they go by plates in this book. This is in plate, I believe, 131, number 11. Okay? It's two books. One has the names and the other one has the crest. Then it says here what the actual meaning means. So what this horse is, it's a Saracen on horseback. 133:11. You see, I'm not lying. 133:11. Okay? Saracen on horseback. Here it is right here. You guys can get the book and it'll testify. I'm not lying to y'all. Here goes plate 133. Here's this guy here, a Saracen riding on a horse, which is the same emblem or Scotland. Okay? Now, what does it mean? The Saracens on a horseback. Well, let's find out who the Saracens are. Because when you look up Saracens, they're very hard to find. But this is what you find about the Saracens. Watch this. Moors and Saracens in Europe. Hold up. Gotcha, bitch. Moors and Saracens in Europe, estimating the medieval North African male legacy in Southern Europe. You see, I found this because of so-called DNA. And I tend to look at these things and then I look at wars. So now we see that the emblem of who? King James I, who was chartered a stock joint of the Dutch company, who what? Was enslaving people. So if these guys were black, do you think they were enslaving black people? Gotcha, bitch. No, they weren't. They weren't enslaving black people. Okay? Not at all. I'm going to read it out loud in this so you guys can listen to this. To investigate the male genetic legacy of the Arab rule in Southern Europe during the medieval times, we focused on the specific Northwest African haplogroups and identified evolutionary close to STR-defined haplotype in Iberia, Sicily, and Italian peninsula. Our results point to a higher recent Northwest African contribution in Iberia and in Sicily in agreement with historical data. You see this, family? If you continue, it says Italian regions known to have experienced long-term Arab presence shows an enrichment of Northwest African types. Once again. I'm not sure who you are. You sound familiar, but you can say what you want. Facts are facts. Khazarian, Talmud, Judaism, Satan, we don't study that. So you're in the wrong channel. Let's see. So let's continue. So now we're getting to see what this crest was. Okay? This here we know now. This is a crest that matters to them. So you can tell that, or are you going to tell me that King James is not a North African Saracen? You can't tell me that. Now, I want to show you this. Partis sequitur ventrum. Partis sequitur ventrum, okay? I've showed you videos before. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to let this guy share it for us. And then I'm going to show you some links about it, okay? Watch this. Let's listen in.
A common characteristic for the first illustrious so-called African Americans to rise into prominence was a melanin deficient parent, in most cases, a father. This outcome was mostly a result of Virginia colonial slave statute, Partis sequitur ventrum. That which is brought forth follows the womb, meaning the legal status of a child born of an enslaved Indian woman will always remain enslaved. Indian woman will always remain enslaved. This law gave planters and free white men in general carte blanche authority to impregnate captured women.
Planters and free white men in general. So the planters were somebody else. Let's continue.
Without having to so much as even claim responsibility for their mixed race children. Just as common, these children were sold on the mulatto maid market as house niggas for an added sticker price as compared to their darker skinned counterparts. In this aspect, Virginia colonial law was totally contradictory to English common law, which states that a child's status follows the father. Of course, this law extending from the earlier Virginia codes was designed this way to assure legalized rape of indigenous women without consequence, and naturally the perpetuation of slavery through a duplicitous modification of English common law. Children born of a white mother and black father were considered free. Born of a white mother and black father were considered free and were counted among free people of color. White men were freely allowed to abandon or kill their children without recourse, solidifying their position as the first deadbeat dads in American history.
So obviously it's very convenient for him to say that. Give me a second. Of course he's going to make that last statement, which is typically an opinion, but then again, I'm not here to defend those guys. That's none of my business. You know what I'm saying? I'm just pointing to facts. So check this out. What does partus equitem ventrum mean? This is from Judicial Cases Concerning American Slavery and the Negro, Volume 1, 1926. Now, see, what we used to think was partus equitem ventrum applied only to so-called black people, meaning African Americans or Africans. Far from the truth. Far from the truth. Partus equitem ventrum. An Indian mulattoes suit for freedom, page 147. Enslaved from Pennsylvania, 284. Colonial acceptance, free mother, legal doctrine, proof of free birth, slave father, and apprenticeship, white mother. No mention of blacks there. I'm not sure what you're trying to say, Tyler. You're just regurgitating typical stuff that the people always say, man. I mean, those are slingers, bro. What the hell? Get your own channel if you really want to teach somebody. All right? So let's continue. In the same book, watch what it says. Remember, family, don't forget who the Dutch are, what the Dutch did, and the reason why we're even talking about the Dutch. Because the Dutch would celebrate in Christmas that Swarthy Pete would take their kids back to Spain if they don't conduct themselves. People in Aruba teach their children the same thing. Si no te portas bien, viene el español y te lleva a España. Kind of weird, isn't it? Let's read. That Indians were brought in and held in slavery for many years subsequent to 1682 is indicated by the evidence of witnesses and the assertion of counsel in cases brought from 90 to 150 years later, and by acts passed in the 18th century. Robin and others who brought action in 1772 to try their titles to freedom were descendants of Indian women brought into this country by traders. All right? Were descendants of Indian women brought into this country by traders at several times between the years of 1682 and 1748. Now, did you guys know this? No. Because all we knew was that slavery only happened to so-called Africans. Not at all. Mason, counsel from the plaintiffs, asserts that hundreds of descendants of Indians, hundreds, mostly women, if not all of them, brought in between 1682 and 1684, have obtained their freedom on the actions brought in this court. In the case at Henry, in June 1772, the court gave judgment against many descendants of Indians introduced and held as slaves between 1682 and 1705. That's 23 years. That many Indians were reduced to slavery between 1691 and 1705 is shown by Henning. Assertions that thousands of their descendants were deprived of their liberty when they sued for it later on. So as you can see, in the revisal of the law in 1705, an act concerning servants and slaves, the reenact chapter 1 of the Act of 1682 is substance, but omits the word Indian. You see that? omits the word Indian and the special clause respecting Indian slaves, meaning he didn't include it. Let's continue. Same book. It says here, I'll start where it goes right here. Thus, we have shown that the first slaves, pay attention, that the first slaves in the colony of Virginia were Indians, not Negroes.
Come on, man. Not Negroes. Why do you guys keep lying to us?
That's just me being funny, fam. Seriously, though. Thus, we have shown that the first slaves in the colony of Virginia were Indians, not Negroes, and that the law of the colony sanctioned Indian slavery except as regards prospective importations by land for a few years after the passage of the Act of 1670. The practice of the colonists, meaning conquistadors, you black ones, you African ones, and you white ones too, but right now I'm talking about you Africans, because you guys are the invisible ones. You were the shadow the whole time, the right-hand man, and I'm going to show you how you were dependent to them the entire time. The practice of the colonists, in accordance to their laws, is illustrated by the cases of court in Virginia and Maryland from 1627 and 1831. Listen, almost 200, matter of fact, more than 4 years? In 1627, some Indians of the Carib Islands, well, check it out. Aruba, were brought in the country by Captain Sampson, but the experiment was too disastrous to warrant repetition, at least on a whole scale. Besides the traffic in Indian slaves between Virginia and Maryland, Maryland colonists mentioned above, the Maryland court records contain other instances of Indian slavery. Do you guys realize there's no mention of black people here? No. You'll see why. The Maryland court records contain other instances of Indian slavery. Paul Simpson Mariner in 1648 complained that Captain Edward Hill had not delivered unto him 2 Indian boys whom he had covenanted to deliver. See? You see this here? You keep reading. Now look, I'm going to show on the bottom right here. In Maryland, in 1656, there belonged to the household of one a Negro, an overseer, okay? A taskmaster, un sacapatas, a white woman servant, okay? And an Indian slave. Hold up. Now, I have to ask you. So you're telling me you told us that you guys were on the bottom the entire time. But here we see that there's actually a category. Several of you people of woolly hair, dark skin, were our taskmasters. You had us under you. You had the white folks under you and we under them. The real people that went through the slavery, perpetual, was not you. Let's continue. And Tyler, again, I don't know what, I'm not trying to diss you, brother. I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you mean. Bloodline, all these started slavery. I'm not sure what he's saying. Are you agreeing with this? Or are you disagreeing with it? Are you saying this is a lie? You're saying it's not true? Ah, yeah. There you go. Here you go, brothers. Appreciate you, man. You see, we like honesty here. That's all we care about. I don't care who you are, what you look like. If you had something to do with slavery of my people, you're going to get it. Because I know people that look like me almost were doing it worse to us. But I know they're not hinted. But anyhow, I appreciate what you said because it's true. I'm glad you say that because that's what's keeping the truth from being exactly. The truth is in the blood. It's prophetic that because of what they do, sedition will be their destruction. By sedition, through sedition. But let me continue. Now I understand. So thank you, brother. Keep doing what you're doing. Besides the traffic in Indian slaves between Virginia and Maryland, hold on, let me see where I left off. Okay, on the bottom. In 1661, one citizen of Maryland demands an Indian, promise him in satisfaction of another Indian belonging to the I don't know, sold by order of the theft. Let's see. Did I miss something? Oh, okay. Hold on a second. The traffic between slaves and Maryland to close against Indian slavery. 2 Indian boys that covered. Okay, we read that. Okay, cool. Let me continue. Okay, my bad. I lost train of thought. Here's another page. All right, this is on the bottom. Watch what it says. In the later history of Indian slavery in Virginia, it is the female Indian slave who is prominent. Let me read it again. This is for you, my sister Elishaba, my sister, what's your name, sis? I forget your name. You're here, I think, still. Esmeralda, you, my lovely sisters, this was applied to you. So this is a generational curse, unfortunately. So you went through this more likely because you're back here and you're hearing this, and God is talking to you, saying, "You went through this. All those weird dreams you had, or those sentimientos that why do I feel weird? Why do I feel different than others?" That's it. I'm not big on dreams. I don't put weight on them. I don't believe in prophecy on dreams, but I believe that each one minds to you only. And to me, this whole kidnapping and the type of sex and I would always have the dreams around Christmas. I'm just telling you, family, it's weird. Anyhow, it says, it is the female Indian slave who is prominent and as the ancestress of slaves petitioning for freedom. You guys seeing this, man? In the later history of Indian slavery in Virginia, it is the female Indian slave who is prominent as the ancestress of slaves petitioning for freedom. So who was the women that were going through slavery more than any other women? It wasn't Asian women. It wasn't African women. It wasn't white women. It was you lovely sisters of ours. That's why they want this 12-track chart in your face. That's why when you see this, look, I'll show you. This is interesting. I wasn't even thinking, this is a side point. The Most High probably wanted me to show you guys this. I'm not sure why, but I'm going to show you something real quick. Where are you? Hold on. Let me see if I have it. Give me a second. I think, is this one here? Hold on. No. Hold on. If I take too long, I'm not going to do this to you guys. But these camps, I'm not going to do it. You see these camps? They're always bashing on their black women. They're always bashing on them. Always. And to be quite frank, they are really the ones that are being the most promiscuous, them and so-called white women, body counts and all that. So that's your spirit. Go ahead. But see, our women don't roll that way, which is why they kidnapped you women, which is why you were so valuable to them, which is why I get sad and at the same time angry when I see so-called African-American women that kind of look like us, because I know that this happened to you. And that's why it's usually the woman, when it's a black woman or African-American woman, that says they were native because the mom, not because the dad. And usually the wobbles, they base it on the maternal, not the paternal. You'll hear it themselves, which is why our native sisters, you know damn well that our sisters, you would not leave your children. A very small portion of y'all will, but our sisters usually don't do that. There you go. Let me read that for you, sis. Let me get that for you. Hold on, let me get it. Hold up. I'll use the sword. Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 15. Give me a second. If you guys have some scriptures that you want to share and it does connect with this, please, by all do, share it with me. All right, I'll read it for y'all. It says, Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15. Thou shalt not deliver unto his master the servant which is escaped from his master unto thee. Damn. Do you know what this is saying? Watch this. It says, watch. It says here, if a slave run away from their owners and comes to you for protection, do not send them back. Did you guys do that? Did they do that? No. I have many books of natives talking about African Americans who learned their ways and would hang out with them and act Indian. And then when it was time to make some money, they would actually turn on the Indian. They would dress up like us, feathers and all, and then bam, put them in slavery. Psh, wicked. Deuteronomy 24:7. Let me see what it reads this. It says, if any of you kidnap Israelites and make them your slaves or sell them into slavery, you are to be put to death. In this way, your nation will get rid of this evil. So as you can see, I'll praise this is because you're going to see that those are the script. Well, not that exactly, but it's going to be a precept. So let me finish this. In the latter history of Indian slavery in Virginia, it is the female Indian slave who is prominent as the ancestress of slaves petitioning for freedom. If you guys read Black Indians, it also talks about that the Moors and Africans were going into Mexico and South America, kidnapping our sisters as well. Let's continue. For if she had been enslaved unlawfully, her descendants in the female line were free. You see that? In 1962, partis equitur ventrum was a law that was passed because of the 1961, it was a retribution act. It was a retaliation act because apparently our native brothers and sisters supposedly killed a bunch of them. So they retaliated, passed an act the year before, and then the following year enslaved all our women and children. That was a law. If I have time, I'll bring the book, okay? And matter of fact, Alicia, but remind me of the book. It's about the what I just mentioned, okay? Just remind me of it if you can too. It says here, now, for if she had been on, let me see, in accordance with the axiom of the civil law, partis sequitur ventrum, which was accepted generally, except in Maryland, for a few years, 1664, 1681. We're almost done, fam. So now here's one more book. This one here, to confirm what's going on. Because as you can see, the dates show that the native, our sisters were the ones going through slavery. Perpetual, right? And you saw that the Negro was the overseer, then the white woman, then us, right? Okay. This is from Virginia, the Old Dominion. Page 88. It reads, the last of this month of August 1619, that marked the establishment of civil liberty and self-government, saw also the introduction of a new class of immigrant laborers. These were Negroes, listen, whose services, it now appears, were indentured, as in the case of whites from England and Europe. Previously, it had been generally accepted that they were sold to the colonists as slaves, while the bringing of them had been ascribed to the Dutch. You see my point, fam? Full circle now, right? Okay. Recent research, however, has cast a new light upon the transaction. According to the available records, these Negroes may not, hold on a second, let me magnify it. My bad, I apologize. Hold on, I don't like that. My bad, I did the work. My apologies. Okay. See you real quick. There it goes. It says here, recent research, however, has cast a new light upon the transaction. According to available records, these Negroes may not with certainty be called slaves, for there is no proof that their persons were called as property or on terms any different from those of white laborers, whose services were engaged under public and private ownership from various lengths of time. On the contrary, the evidence clearly points to the customary indenture. For Virginia, remember, Dutch were there, Black Dutch. Archive shows that throughout the second quarter of the 17th century, meaning late 1600s, like 1680, 1690, like we were reading, right? Negroes were being released. Let me say that again. Negroes were being released. Gotcha, bitch. At the end of their periods of indenture. Gradually, racial slavery grew out of this condition as the English settlers followed the examples of the Spaniards in West Indies. Hence, the first importation came, blah, blah, blah. You guys can read the book. So now we're seeing that they were not the initial slaves. Let me see this. Let me read this. But hermano, they will say with these texts that we natives enslaved people. The only record that they could, and they typically use it with this 1619 theoretical thing, the Trial of Tears. That's it. That's it. I don't know if those were, because there was a lot of mixing going on, but the very limited amount of natives had slaves. Comparable to the white and black folks, it doesn't even compare. Keep in mind, see, don't fall for that. That's more retaliation than anything. Because I don't see any history where natives were like adamant about fighting the wars with them. There's a lot of history that shows that a lot of people that you wouldn't expect fought in the Civil War. Now, let's go to Isaiah 5:26. I want to show you something, okay? It says, and he will lift up an ensign to the nations from far. So now, I wanted to establish the Dutch, the beginnings, the Swarthy Pete story, where it came from. It's not racist, family. Those people are just trying to remind themselves. Don't go back to slavery. And that's why we know now that in Aruba, they practiced it, no wonder, because they were in Aruba. And now we see that Dutch and Virginia have a lot in common. And then we find out that partis sequitur ventrum was all about against us. And you're going to find out who passed that law. Yeah, it was King James. King James, not the one that authorized the Bible translation, his son, I think his grandson, he authorized partus sequitur ventrum. That's what happened. That's why I wanted to show you the records so you can connect them yourself. Isaiah chapter 5, verse 26. It says, and he will lift up an ensign to the nations from far, and I will hiss them from the end of the earth. So see, the ensign, he will give us a sign of who these people would be. It says that they will be from afar, and he's going to go, psst, hey, come here, from the end of the earth. Watch this. And this ensign also is going to say kind of their character. And behold, they shall come with speed, swiftly. Keywords, family, swiftly. From afar, from the end of the earth. It'll be an ensign. Okay? Don't forget. Let's continue. Now, I want to share this with y'all. In case you don't know this, and I have said before that the fall of Granada really has a lot of key and like clues. So I'm gonna show you something. In the war between the war for Granada started in 1482, and as you can see, it lasted almost 10 years. Okay, but in the 10th year, there was an 8-month siege. Now, this siege started in 1491. As you can see, you can read through it with me. You know what I mean? I'm just looking at the camera. I kind of remembered. And it lasted all the way through October, okay? The same year. 1491 lasted all the way through October. Now, through the Treaty of Granada, that means that they came to an agreement, kind of like if you guys seen the movie, the Conquerors of Jerusalem, or the two kings, they meet, and they're like, hey, man, we could either go to war, and we'll destroy you, or, that's it. So it's like, okay, man, we'll agree with you. So the Treaty of Granada was signed November 25th, 1491. Now I'm going to show you something. Granting them 2 months to the city and the African departure. So this is prior to 1492, okay? There's a relevance to this, fam. Watch this. Now, the same at the end of October, right? The same year as November, Granada gave in. Now, they were given 2 months. Remember this. And then then they walked into Spain in January 2nd of 1492. So follow me on the dates. The year before, at the end of the year, okay? In November, in October it was done, and then they're given from November to January. Watch this. The dates correlate to something. Like I asked the question, do you see what I see? November 25th, December 25th, and January 2nd. Those are actual important dates because in November 26th was when they signed the treaty. They were given already time before, but they agreed finally on paper. Once they were done in October. So why do you think this says in the scriptures? That's why Swarthy Pete and this relates. Revelation 11:10, and they that dwelt upon the earth shall rejoice over them and make merry and shall send gifts one to another. And they that dwelt upon the earth shall rejoice over them and make merry and shall send gifts one to another. Now, keep in mind, fam. Hold on, let me go this way. Sorry. What is celebrated in November 24th? Thanksgiving. What is celebrated in Christmas? And why is New Year's in the first month of December? Because it's a renewing of them. You see, who brought Thanksgiving to us? They did. Who brought Christmas to us? They did. Who brought January, New Year? They did. Now I'm going to show you something. You're going to be surprised. Which is why Revelation says, and they that dwelled upon the earth shall rejoice over them. Why? Because when they came around that time and make merry and shall send gifts one to another. The gifts that they used to push through was us. Send each other gifts. Hey, I got a slave for you. Go. 50 slaves, most of them women. Go, man. You got to see the Bible for what it is. Look, I want to point this out. Because I'm going to touch on something. This is Portugal. This is Spain, Grenada. You see, Arago. But look how close Africa is. Right? You see, it says Musulman. Right? Right there. Okay. Now, let's get to a little closer. Now we see Grenada. And now look how close it is here. Ceuta, 1415. Tarifa, 1492. Tarifa means tariff. And I guess they call the city because when you port there, they charge you a tariff. Makes sense. But look how close they are to Africa. So now, let's touch on this. Remember, an ensign. Deuteronomy 28:49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far. Remember the ensign? From far, right? From the end of the earth. Remember the ensign? From the end of the earth. Remember this word? As swift. Right? But now it gives you a little more of a hint, a clue. As swift as an eagle flieth. So not only will they come as an eagle, but they would have the sign of an eagle. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. So now, let's go back here a little bit. We're going to touch on two things. If the Africans and Europeans were already at war with each other, they obviously knew their language, right? Common sense. Because if they ruled Europe, they spoke French, Russian. I've talked to this before. And look how close it is. But the clue says that a nation from far, that's not far, so-called African Americans. That's not far. From the end of the earth, that's not the end of the earth. As swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. And we know now from proof that the nations of Europe, white and black, had the eagle. Yeah, common sense. So the ensign would be that a nation from the end of the earth, far and swift. Oh, and then one more thing, they're going to have an eagle. So when you see an eagle, you should be mindful, and then they won't speak your language. Deuteronomy 28:45, and they shall be upon thee for a sign, and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. Until when? Until our redeeming. So until our redeeming, we're going to see these ensigns. Okay? Let's go. Isaiah 5:26. Now let's look at it again. And I will lift up an ensign to the nations from afar. He's going to warn them. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, my camera's dying often. Let me go ahead and go back to this. Hold up. I will lift up an ensign to the nations from afar, to them. But this ensign shall be for us too. And I will hiss unto them from the end of the earth, and behold, they shall come with speed swiftly. So who are these people? So we used to think that it was just one particular nation. Watch this. I'm going to read this to you guys, if in case you haven't, and I want to make sure that this sinks in finally now. Habakkuk 1:8. And Habakkuk 1:5 says, and I'm going to do something that is going to amaze you, and you're not going to believe it once you see it. Habakkuk 1:8, it says, their horses are swifter than the leopards, and are more fierce than the evening wolves. They came like that. Their horsemen shall spread themselves, and their horsemen shall come from afar. Remember the ensign? Remember a sign forever? They'll come as leopards in their horses, and they will be fierce, their countenance, and they'll be with lots of horses, and those horses will come from afar, and they shall fly as the eagle that hasted to eat, meaning hungry. And you know that they were starving. Watch this. You see the picture in the back? This is from a book called The Golden Age of the Moors by Arvin Sertima. There is a European scholar that quoted this, and he recorded it. This was recorded in 711 AD. Habakkuk prophesied this in 600 BC. And now we see it again in 2023. 1,300 years apart, each one. The reins of the Moorish horses were as fire, their faces black as pitch, their eyes shone like burning candles. Their horses were swift as leopards and more fierce than a wolf in a sheepfold at night. The noble Visigoths, the white folks, were broken in an hour, quicker than tongue can tell, O luckless Spain, when Spain fell. Remember, their horses were swift as leopards and more fierce than a wolf in a sheepfold at night. Their horses are also as swifter than the leopards and are more fierce than the evening wolves. And they shall fly as the eagle. Who has the eagle, fam? That's right. Jeremiah 5:15. Lo, I will bring a nation upon you from far. O house of Israel, saith the Lord, it is a mighty nation. How quick did they fall over there? Within an hour. It is an ancient nation. This is a hint. A nation whose language thou knowest not. You see this? If these were the so-called Africans, it wouldn't apply to them, right? Exactly. You see, it wouldn't apply to them because it says a nation whose language thou would not understand, neither understandeth what they say. But they were mixing among each other forever, for 800 years. Yeah. Lo, I bring a nation upon you from far. O house of Israel, saith the Lord, it is a mighty nation. It is an ancient nation, a nation whose language thou knowest not, neither understandeth what they say. Here's the hint, and here's your answer. Watch this. Deuteronomy 28:36. The Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. So another hint is that you wouldn't know them, and neither would your parents. And there shalt thou serve other gods, and nor we would know their gods. Now, we saw King James with a cross, so they knew about Christianity, right? And King James is English, right? Exactly. Let's continue. Verse 64. The Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto another, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. So it's talking about an ancient nation, like Jeremiah, an ancient nation that our fathers would not know. Now here it says that these people, we didn't know their language, but here's what it means by it, fam. Now let's round it off. Matter of fact, let me read this first, and then I'll show you. I think Judges should come up. Baruch 4:15. He says, "For he had brought a nation upon them from afar, a shameless nation of a strange language, who neither reverend old man nor pitied child." And we see this till this very day. We know who acts like this towards our people. We see it every day. Let's continue to my point. Here's why it says an ancient nation that you knew your fathers have not known. Why? Watch this. Judges 3:1. Now these are the nations which the Lord left to prove Israel by them, even as many of Israel as had not known all the wars of Canaan. Remember, it says that neither you nor your fathers have known a weird language, people that are different than you. Watch this. Only that the generations of the children of Israel might know, to teach them war, at the least such as before knew nothing thereof. You see? Continue. Namely, 5 lords of the Philistines, and all the Canaanites, and the Sidonians, and the Hittites, that dwelt in Mount Lebanon, from Mount Baal-Hermon unto the entering of Hamath. That we would be dealing with them for generations. And that he would send an ancient nation, a very uncivilized nation. Now, if you guys remember this, family, and we know this in Latino America, that we understood that Spaniards love to mix. They love to mix their seed, right? We knew that. but usually the British didn't. I wonder why. Watch this, just to show you a point. This is from a book called The American. I'll get it before we finish. I want to read this out. This is the point that I want to make. Okay, it says an untold number of free people of African descent, black conquistadors, born in Africa or on the Iberian Peninsula, also accompanied Spanish conquistadors such as Hernan Cortez and Ponce de Leon. By far, more Africans came with the Spanish and the Portuguese as slaves, servants with varying degrees of freedom, attendants, or armed adventurers. And you can see right here, several armed adventurers. Same book. Indeed, wherever Spain set its flag of conquest in the Americas, Africans helped hold the pennant.
Wait a minute. Who are you?
Let me read it. These black conquistadors set an example for subsequent racial relations throughout the entire Spanish colonial experience, living their daily lives with degrees of complexity that rarely would be achieved by black men and women in early English settlements in the Caribbean and North Africa. Indeed, wherever Spain set its flag of conquest in the Americas, Africans helped hold a pennant. They participated in the exploration of the lands that would become modern-day Mexico, Costa Rica, Honduras, Panama, Venezuela, Peru, and Chile, as well as Florida, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. Men such as Juan Garrido, Esteban, John Rodriguez, Gaspar Llanga, to name a few. That's why the whole thing about Swarthy Pete, that's why they Elizabeth, that's what they would tell you. Si no te portas bien, te van a llevar el Swarthy Pete. Porque estos blancos se llevaban a los negros. Or Africans, however you want to say it. And as their helpers and slave our children and women. Those are facts. Those are not fairy tales. It's not a made-up story. At all. I take my time with these classes families because I really care about my gente. I really care about you guys. And I know how much we have suffered. And even though we do, we still fight. We don't complain. We don't blame. We don't, I want reparations. No, we don't care. We just want our people to be happy, finally go back to our Father and get rid of these people. That's what we care about from the conversations I have. Let me read Baruch again. Baruch 4:9. Check this out. I want you to remember this. I want you to remember that our history in the Bible, our history is in the Bible. Even tales, they're in the Bible. That's why whenever you start reading the Bible and you connect the things that, like, oh my God, now I know why, you feel more proud. Watch this. Baruch 4:9. For when she saw the wrath of God coming upon you, she said, hearken, O ye that dwell about Zion. God had brought upon me great mourning. As you guys know, that Zion is like a woman, right? She's our mother, all right? Verse 10, for I saw the captivity of my sons and daughters, with which the everlasting brought upon them. With joy did I nourish them, but sent them away with weeping and mourning. Let no man rejoice over me, a widow and forsaken of many, who for the sins of my children I'm left desolate, because they departed from the laws of God. Verse 13, they knew not his statutes, nor walked in the ways of his commandments, nor trod in the path of discipline in his righteousness. Let them that dwell about Zion come, and remember ye the captivity of my sons and daughters. For now Zion is pleading to the Most High, which the everlasting had brought upon them. So she's pleading for us, right? For he had brought a nation upon thee from far, a shameless nation, of a strange language, who neither reverend the old man nor pitied the child. That's why in Deuteronomy 28:50, it says, of fierce countenance. And we know what happened to our sisters and our children. Fed to dogs, hung on hooks, lynched, burned, thrown overboard, raped, slaughtered. And it still continues. There's 90,000 children still missing that are so-called illegal. They don't give a damn about our people, fam. Who is voting in America? It ain't usually us. It's white and black. Verse 16, these have carried away the dear beloved children of the widow and left her that was alone, desolate, without daughters. So this history that you guys know about the Llorona, that's what it is. That's actually what it is, fam. You see, a lot of us change the folklore. But in reality, La Llorona is basically this land here, for example, crying about the desolation of our children. That's what it is. That's why when you read Sirach, I wrote it down, thank God. La Llorona story. Zion is a woman, and her children are the children of Israel. She is the weeping woman. Which weeping woman? In 2nd Ezra. 2nd Ezra 10:41. I'm just going to do two verses. Watch this. Thou sawest the woman mourning, and thou beginnest to comfort her, right? Because this was Ezra seeing a woman. But if you read the chapter, you'll see that this woman was crying over her child. And she's like, woman, why are you complaining over one child? Don't you know Israel lost so many? And she's like, no, but I want to complain, whatever. And then all of a sudden she disappears. So then the interpretation is given to him. So now the angel comes to Ezra and says, thou sawest the woman mourning, and thou beginnest to comfort her, because he did. Verse 44, to the point. This woman whom thou sawest is Zion. And whereas she said unto thee, even she whom thou seest is a city builded. So this woman, this weeping woman, is dying for her children, which is the same story that we know of here. That the Aztecs, the Mexicas or Mexiacas, that Llorona was crying for those children that died at the hand of the Spaniards, of the Euros. Exactly. Check this. Isaiah 49:20. We're almost done. Yeah, almost. I'm going 20 hours. The children which thou shalt have after thou hast lost the others shall say again in their ears, the place is too straight for me. Give place to me that I may dwell. Watch this. Here's the point. Verse 21. Then shalt thou say in thy heart, who had begotten me these, seeing I have lost my children, and I am desolate and a captive, and removing to and fro. And who had brought up these? Behold, I was left alone. These were, had they been. Right? So you're asking. So check this out. Thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will lift up my hand to the Gentiles and set up my standard to the people. And they shall bring thy sons in their arms, and thy daughters shall be carried upon their shoulders. This is a prophecy. Future prophecy, fam. Okay? Which is why these heathens, they don't deserve our book, because they're using this next verse to put their foot in someone else that had part of the slave trade. So when you see a so-called African American putting his foot on a so-called white man, you got to wonder who was really the slaver initially. There's a big rabbit hole coming through. Isaiah 49:23. And kings shall be nursing fathers, and their queens thy nursing mothers. They shall bow down to thee with their face towards the earth, and lick up the dust of thy feet. And thou shalt know that I am the Lord, for they shall not be ashamed that wait for me. Because this is a heavy topic to think of, because when it really hits you, family, like the attack is really on us. Like it has been since the get-go, fam. And we were just like asleep, like zombies, not even understanding. And then the Most High said, time to wake up. Isaiah 51:22, I'm almost done. Thus say the Lord, thus say thy Lord, the Lord, I'm sorry. Is it right? Thus say the Lord, and thy God that pleaded the cause of his people. Behold, I have taken out thine hand the cup of trembling. He's talking to us, family. Even the dregs of the cup of my fury. Thou shalt no more drink it again. And this is why the understanding is growing. This is why when we learn in these classes I'm not saying, oh, it's all them and we need reparations because of that. And no, listen, in case you guys are new, why are you blaming them? I'll give you an example. I don't do it, but when I used to with my son, I guess. What does it make sense for him to get mad at the belt or get mad at me? What does the belt have to do with anything? I whooped his butt because he was a bad kid. So it would be dumb for him to be mad at the belt. So why are these guys blaming them? Oh, it was your fault. It's you enslaved. No, dummies. It was your fault. If you're a real Hebrew, an Israelite, for real, it was our fault. You have no right. I'm telling you, family, I got no right to even ask for salvation. I got no right. Remember the sister in the Bible that she was having issues with blood, and she just touched the fringes of the Messiah, right? The story. And look, however you want to interpret that, just pay attention to this. She touched the fringes of him because she understood that if she touched him, he would be unclean because she was unclean. So she understood, I'm too dirty to even deserve mercy. Let me just rub your fringes, man, maybe. That's how you got to be. That's exactly what the Most High is asking for. The nerve of you to think that, oh yeah, I'm above. You ain't above nobody, family. Let me remind you guys, we shouldn't be alive. If you're a real Israelite, your ass should be dead. You should be lucky that you even have a chance to repent. So instead of us going out there blaming them, putting our foot down on them, how do you know you're going to make it? And how do you know you even elect? That's dumb. Isaiah 51:22. Thus say the Lord, the Lord, and thy God that pleaded the cause of his people. Behold, I have taken out thy hand the cup of trembling, even the dregs of the cup of my fury. Thou shalt no more drink it again. I'm going to tell you this right now from experience with the alcoholism, that type of lifestyle, man. I don't want that cup anymore, fam. I'm so thankful. I'm so happy that God is removing that cup from me. I don't lose that battle as much. I haven't drank in a while, but I'm just telling you what I battle, my flesh and the thorn. Isaiah 51:23. But I will put it into the hand of them that afflict thee, which have said to thy soul, bow down, manifest destiny. Bow down, go back to your country. Bow down, stop speaking Spanish. Bow down, shut your ass up, you beaner, spig, wetback. This is my country. You better assimilate. Bow down, which have said to thy soul, bow down, that we may go over. What did they do in Florida? And who voted for that? African Americans and Anglo Americans, to get rid of our people. Bow down to go over them. You don't deserve it. You're an illegal immigrant. Who are the gente out there selling paletas, elotes, ice cream? And the nerve of these nations, and I haven't seen, yeah, I have, but mostly a particular one, the topic here, the Swarthys, most of the Swarthys are busting knocking down their actual tents. Bow down, it says, that we may go over. And thou hast laid thy body as the ground. You know, and I know this family because my mother never made more than $8 an hour in her whole entire life of work. And I remember she messed up her ankle, and she couldn't walk. And she still went to work, and she was limping, fam, using the bus because my dad was too busy drinking. And I found her with my friends. We were driving. We gave her a ride. And I know of stories my mom has told me of people saying things to her, saying things to me while I'm with her, saying things to my fathers, to you guys. But I will put up in the hand of them that afflict thee, which have said to thy soul, bow down, that we may go over. And thou hast laid thy body as the ground, as the streets, To them that went over, excuse me. To them that went over. You know why? Because I see our gente every single day doing this. Hola, ¿cómo está, señor? Hey, buenas tardes, bro. I see him every day. You see him on the fields? Who's bowing down? Who's picking up the damn fruits? Bow down, you beaner, because that's the only job you're going to get. And thou hast laid thy body as the ground, because I have no choice. Pues no hay otro, hermano. No hay otro, hermano. And thou hast laid thy body as the ground and as the streets to them that went over. Let them continue doing it, fam. Let them. Let them have their reparations. Let them say whatever they want to say. Let them call you Mongols, whatever. It doesn't matter. We continue in this walk because that's what he's asking for. Repentance. Forget the small stuff. Vengeance is of the Lord. Remember the scriptures I've shared with you guys. Don't have any bitterness towards them. What I'm sharing with you is to show you how we develop love. Because when you know that we've been going through this together, that's how we became friends. We're growing up together. Mi vecino, hey man, you know, my dad, his dad, my family, we grew up together because we suffered together. We ate the same food together. Beans and arroz and frijoles and arroz and tortillas. We all shared about the same. Don't trip. Don't trip, fam. And I really hope that this was a edifying class. And I apologize on that one, man. I kind of lost a little bit of it. I don't normally do that, fam, but damn. Anyhow, yeah. Other than that, I hope it was edifying. If you guys can, walk in faith and keep the commandments. You can't forget that. Can't forget that, okay? Keep that in mind. The class I did yesterday. Remember this real quick, fam. We have an example. From the get-go. It says, Isaiah 51:1, the Lord said, listen to me, you that want to be saved, you that came to me for help. Think of the rock which you came, the quarry from which you were cut. Think of your ancestor, Abraham, and of Sarah, from whom you are descended. When I called Abraham, he was childless, but I blessed him and gave him children and made his descendants numerous. And I will show compassion to Jerusalem. So keep this in mind. So watch this. So let's not forget. James 2. This thing is right here. Watch this real quick. Where are you at? There it goes right here. James 2:17. So it is with faith. If it is alone and includes no action, then it's dead. Just like love. If you say you love your wife, but you treat her horribly, then you don't love her. Or you say you love your children, but you're never there, then you don't love them. You gotta act. That's why it says next. But someone will say, one person has faith, another has actions. My answer is, show me how anyone can have faith without actions. I will show you my faith by my actions. Do you believe that there is only one God? Good. The demons also believe and tremble with fear. You fool. Do you want to be shown that faith without actions is useless? Watch this. How was our ancestor Abraham put right with God? It was through his action when he offered his son Isaac on the altar. Can't you see? His faith and his actions work together. His faith was made perfect through his action. So that's why, man, the sacrificial law is the only thing that we parted ways with. Because everything is still in effect. The moral, the civil, the dietary. Matter of fact, you know what? Let me see something. If I don't have it right now, I'll do it in another class. But it's about maybe 4 minutes long. That's cool. I'll do it in another class if I remember. And you know what? Now I'm thinking about it. What was the book called that I was going to bring out? No, I don't have it. I forgot. Okay, fam. All right. Well, other than that, if you guys have anything to say, but by all means, please let me know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think this is a little bit more clear, a little more organized? Do you think it's best that I continue the whole PowerPoint presentation type classes? Do you guys think, or was it better to go the other way? Let me get your feedback. What do you think? What was more clear? Because what I used to read, I could tell when I'm watching the classes, you can't see the scriptures as well. You would have to magnify it yourself. So I'm trying to accommodate your needs. So is there anything you guys can add? By all means, please do. If you don't want to make a comment today, don't worry about it. Please post something. Now, the only reason I asked you guys to give thumbs up is obviously because so then this okay, perfect. Okay, it was smooth. That's what I want. That's what I want. I want smoothness. So I'm gonna get rid of all the other stuttering stuff. Perfect. What I want is just to be streamlined, continue these classes. And listen, if I say hit the like button, it ain't because this is out of spirit, fam. There's nobody who makes money here. This is our channel. So do whatever you can to get the algorithm to pass to other brothers and sisters. Post it on your Facebook, share it with your friends. Listen, some of your classes, man, I know I'm kind of blunt, and maybe some people don't like it, but the Most High made me this way. So it is what it is. Lord willing, you guys have by the way, I don't sell, I don't obligate you guys to follow my ways. I follow the lunar Sabbath. Okay. You guys do the Sabbath Fridays and Saturdays. As long as we keep the Sabbaths, sooner or later, we'll know more with clarity, just like the scripture said. So happy Sabbath to you guys. Mines will begin tomorrow. Okay. So other than that, you guys have a phenomenal night. Again, enjoy it. Take time, spend with your family. Study, focus, review these things, review these verses, look at these books, pull up the material. These are the things you should show your children, even in your own way, so they can understand. Because this is what we're building. We're not trying to build enemies. We already know what they did, and it was our fault. So now the way we get back on track is by showing love to each other. Just like the opposite of how we were destroying each other. Now we don't got to do that anymore. All right, fam. Other than that, man, appreciate you guys. Let's see. So let me see who's here. Shalom, Rick, Esmeralda, if you're still there, our praises is pleasure to have you here. Elishua, as you know, thank you for the topic. Our praises, brothers. If you could send a prayer out for Elishua's family. Much love to her, man. She brought that point out, and it just triggered this class. So as you can see, we all build together. We all have something to share. So please, if you have any topics, something that is just awkward to you, bring it to us. Because now we know why they would tell you, métete, pórtate bien, si no va a venir el Swarthy te va a llevar y robar para llevarte a España. Now you know why they said that. So anyhow, all praise, man. Appreciate you guys. Have a good night. And you know how I end it. I'm going to do Matthew 6. If you guys can pray me real quick, then I'll put a song, and then we finish it, okay? The song, I like this song a lot. It's called Hallelujah, and it's because of that, man. All right, so if you guys can, please, moment of silence, I guess. All right, here we go. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 6 and verse 9. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Okay, fam. So here, I got the song for you. Again, look, every song that I play, I want you to know that not this one, but some of them sometimes do say bad words, whatever. But there's a message in them. That's why I use these guys, okay? And several different ones. There's a message, and I want you guys to, understand my message, okay? So this song, I like it because my kids love it. It's from Shrek, but it's a remix. It's in Spanish. Well, it's not in Spanish, but he tries to sing it, and it's just real good. And quite frankly, man, this is hallelujah time. This is opening the books. The books are being revealed. There's no narrative here. We're not falsifying info. We're not twisting stories. We're showing book, material, scripture. Book, material, scripture. Curses, curses, curses. All Deuteronomy 28 and all Leviticus 26 applies to the people in this continent. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So again, you so-called Hispanics, you so-called Native Indians or indigenous people, and you brothers and sisters from scattered abroad, Lord willing, you were edified and you love this class, all right? You take care. All right. Shalom, family. Take care of yourselves.
Yeah, man, I real bit. We're on the microphone forever and ever. With respect and love. I heard there was a secret chord to David play and please the Lord. But you don't really care for music, do ya? I go like this, do for the fifth, do matter for the major leaf, the Buffalo King composing, hallelujah. Strong, but you need to prove you're so bathing on the roof. Hey, beauty on the moonlight over you. She teach you a catching chest. She brought your throne, she caught your head. I'm from you, let's see through the hallelujah. 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 Before I know the room, I walk this floor. I used to never long before I knew you. I've seen your flag on mirror eyes. Love is not a beating, it's a golden, it's a broken. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. But you don't really care for music, do you? I go like this, do for the fifth, do minor for the major lift, do Buffalo King composing. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Your face was strong, but you need to prove you're so amazing on the roof. The beauty of the moonlight over you. She teach you to a catching chest. You brought your throne, she called your hair, and I'm throwing at you loop. The hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
When you know
Yeah, man, real. This is the music I do it forever, never, nego. This is Q in the studio. Q nego on the microphone. Sergio Maya, Paquito, son. Blessing for the world, man. I write them, take reggae music soul, yeah. In a Babylon, Lord, Lord, Lord. I know where you're sitting, nego. Please. Brilla mi vida como el sol lo hace en el mar. Se mantiene encendida como luz de mi cantar. Son promesas prohibidas las que me van a dañar. Pues mintiendo algún día todo se puede acabar. Y entonces, ¿qué queda de verdad? Mil voces que nos hablan de humildad. Después de tanto tiempo con heridas en el alma, vendí mi soledad para por fin hallar la calma. Bendito todo aquel que con amor destruye el arma del humano radical que de mentira llena el karma. Aquí sigo yo cantando, bailando y sabiendo qué debo de hacer. Aquí sigo yo llorando y riendo por dentro a la misma vez. Aquí sigo yo cantando, bailando y sabiendo qué debo de hacer. Aquí sigo yo llorando y riendo por dentro a la misma vez. A la misma vez. Black sound, black woman, black sound. Caminos de fuego, mucho viento y perdición, se llevan al malo por malvada intención. Que todas tus noches se llenen con mi canción, de gritos al alba y desnuda situación. Habla con el tiempo y dile que lo ves pasar, que todos los momentos los debes de recordar. Sean buenos, sean malos, todo tuvo que llegar, mas nunca hubo tiempo que debiera malgastar. Alright, this is the music out there, my family. Original and fresh, forever and ever. Babylon, more fire. Sing it. Siempre fieles a lo nuestro. Música del alma. Around the world. Hey, hey. Oh, oh, oh. Hey, hey. Black soul, black woman, black soul. Black soul, black woman, Kion, my brother. Alright.
y cal, hijo Abre los ojos. Tu cuerpo se queda con nosotros, pero tu espíritu debe seguir. Busca la luz. Aléjate de las sombras. Deja que nuestro dolor sea tu fuerza. Desde aquí iluminamos tu camino. Lucha como nosotros ante esta pena tan grande. Yo soy tú. Tú eres yo. La muerte que hoy nos separa, mañana volverá a unirnos. Eres libre, hijo.